In order to more effectively research your Mexican family history, and to better understand Mexican history in general, you have to look beyond political narratives. Political narratives are good when simplifying a nation's collective history, but the reality is we all have unique family lineages. It's easy to imagine Mexico as being a country that existed prior to 1521, but the reality is the Mexico that we know today is the result of the encounter of two civilizations. One we can describe as our mother civilization, Mesoamerica, which dates back roughly to the time of the Olmecs. The other is Western civilization, which dates back to the Greeks and the Romans, and that was introduced to Mexico by the Spaniards. And of course, people of African and Asian ancestry also arrived in Mexico within the context of Spain's colonization of the Americas. As for genealogy, it's important to examine the phases of Hispanic settlement in order to understand how we became Mexicans. Even if you're fully or mostly of indigenous and African ancestry, you will still find genealogical value in knowing the colonization process because it also marks the introduction of written records, such as baptismal and marriage records in each region. Remember, the Spaniards and their indigenous allies never left. They stayed behind in Mexico and continued the process of conquest and settlement across North America, and many, perhaps most Mexicans, are their descendants. Following the conquest of Mexico, Spain established the Kingdom of Mexico in central Mexico, which included the Aztec Dominion, Michoacán, and Oaxaca. The Kingdom of Mexico was one kingdom under a larger political structure known as the Viceroyalty of New Spain. In time, more kingdoms and captaincies would be added to the Viceroyalty of New Spain. Cortés briefly governed New Spain as governor, captain general, and chief justice. He was later replaced by Antonio de Mendoza, who served as the first viceroy of the Viceroyalty of New Spain. Many of the original Spanish settlers were written about in La Relación Secreta, in which you will find names and genealogies of settlers from 1519 to the 1540s. Subsequently, in 1529 and 1530, Conquistador Nuño de Guzmán led an expedition to conquer the areas now known as Jalisco, Aguascalientes, Zacatecas, Guanajuato, Colima, and Nayarit, where he established the Kingdom of Nueva Galicia. And it was from the coast of Jalisco that Tlaxcalan and Criollo conquistadors set sail to Asia and conquered the Philippines. Years later, after the establishment of Nueva Galicia, the Spanish Basque explorer Francisco de Ibarra departed from Nueva Galicia and created settlements in northern Mexico, and established the Kingdom of Nueva Vizcaya in an area now known as the Mexican states of Durango, Chihuahua, and part of Coahuila. In 1565, Nueva Navarra was established north of Nueva Galicia, in what is today Sonora and Sinaloa. In 1582, the Viceroyalty of New Spain further expanded northward when the Portuguese-born Spanish conquistador Luis de Carvajal established the Kingdom of Nuevo León in an area corresponding to the modern Mexican state of Nuevo León. There has actually been a lot written about Luis de Carvajal and the families that founded Nuevo León. Many of the original families were Sephardic Jewish, and if your family is originally from this region, there is a strong likelihood that you have Sephardic Jewish ancestry. In 1674, Nueva Extremadura, a region in the north of New Spain, was established in what is today's Coahuila in Mexico by an explorer named Alonso de León. This explorer was actually born in what is today the modern Mexican state of Nuevo León. Nuevo Santander, which derives its name from a place in northern Spain, was a region of the Viceroyalty of New Spain, covering the modern state of Tamaulipas and extending into modern-day southern Texas in the United States. José de Escandón founded the colony in 1747. Even the places that are now part of the United States followed a similar pattern of colonization. In the late 1500s, many of the people who first settled New Mexico were originally Criollo settlers from Nueva Galicia. In 1716, an explorer named Domingo Ramon, who was born in what is today the modern Mexican state of Coahuila, founded Nueva Filipinas in the area now known as Texas. People from central Mexico were also among those who settled in California. For family history research in northern Mexico and the southwestern United States, the book I strongly recommend is With All Arms by Carl Lawrence Duane. This is perhaps one of the most, if not the most, detailed books on migration from central Mexico to northern Mexico and the American Southwest. It includes genealogies, family crests, and histories of places across the region. As for the Yucatan Peninsula, it was incorporated into New Spain in 1564 as a captaincy, which meant that it had a military leadership in charge of the province instead of a civilian one. This was arranged since the region was under constant threat from European and indigenous incursions. For the Yucatan and Chiapas, using census records, which I introduced in my previous video, might be your best bet with regard to resources beyond marriage and baptismal records. As you can see, the process of creating the Mexican nation occurred over centuries. For much of the colonial period, Spain actually continued to allow many indigenous languages to flourish at the local level. In fact, Nahuatl was one of the official languages of New Spain. To this day, there are still perhaps millions of colonial-era documents written in indigenous languages that exist in historical archives throughout Mexico. The Spanish language was mostly spoken in Mexico City and the many other colonial cities and provincial capitals of New Spain. The one unifying factor throughout New Spain and across ethnic lines was the Catholic religion. Local Catholic symbolism, particularly the Virgin of Guadalupe and her apparition on Mount Tepeyac, created a sense of uniqueness among Mexicans from their compatriots in Spain. The coat of arms of colonial Mexico City, which was an eagle on a cactus in honor of the city's Aztecan origins, also made its way across North America, far beyond the original borders of the Aztec Empire, and this drew more people in the colony closer to the story of central Mexico. Guadalupanismo, a religious perspective viewing the Virgin of Guadalupe as an interceding force, gave the emerging Mexican nation the sense of being divinely inspired. Also, a type of nationalism, which has been described as neo-Aztecismo, portrayed Mexico as a country that existed in pre-Hispanic times and viewed Mexico City as an ancient world capital that was worthy of independence. These two concepts, Guadalupanismo and neo-Aztecismo, flourished in cities across central Mexico, particularly among criollos and mixed-race people. And before long, various ideas for independence emerged. And in 1810, the armed struggle for Mexico's independence began. And 11 years later, Mexico City was finally liberated, and a new nation was born.